Watch this keynote if you're ready to get inspired and learn from my founder journey. Guys, it's amazing that you're starting this, right? I mean, we've all started our entrepreneurial journey somewhere, right? One thing that helped me throughout my whole journey was the experiences I made with other people, right? The people I've met and the support I've gotten. And all of that due to things I organized, right? I went out there into the world to give the world the opportunity to, you know, surprise you positively, right? And that is what you're doing by being here. It's hot outside, right? You could be somewhere else. You could be lying at a lake, right? But you're here in order to educate yourself, right? And to learn stuff. What I brought you here are a couple of learnings, right? Very subjective learnings. And I'm here for you guys, right? We have about 20 minutes. So whenever you have a question, feel free to. Let's start with the question I have though. What is that? What do you recognize? What is that?
It was on the floor?
On the floor, exactly. Yeah, it's that spray paint, right? And it's illegal advertisement that we did. You should imagine that being about a square meter, right? 1 by 1 meter big, right? And you can imagine that in front of every single self-storage center in Berlin, right? All across the sidewalk, not once, but the sidewalk was full of these pictures from us, right? That is what we did. So when I see that picture, I remember the letters and the angry calls I received, right? Letters stating a fine of up to 250,000 euros per incident, right? Again, we did that all over the sidewalk. And then I remember the next paragraph of that official letter coming from the authorities saying, well, a bit less money, right? And then the next paragraph saying, again, a bit less. And then the least paragraph saying, well, just remove it. Right? And it didn't bring us any customers, right? But it was one of the guerrilla marketing tactics we applied. Right? We wanted to piss off our competition a little bit, and that is what we managed. It didn't bring us any customers, right? But we did a lot of stuff, and one thing I want to tell you, just do it, right? Just do it. We, of course, consulted a lawyer beforehand, right? And it was a good lawyer. He was like, well, you know, maybe look at this and that. That might be comparable. It might be not that expensive. And also, you're in a startup ecosystem like Berlin, right? When someone sues you and you get in front of a law court, right? Everything is being taken with a grain of salt because you're an entrepreneur trying to do something, trying to build something, trying to do something well. So before you start worrying about everything, just do it. Start it, right? That is what I would highly recommend doing. So who's standing in front of you? Thomas already gave you an overview, and I believe he did the same thing I did yesterday, right? I looked at my LinkedIn profile, and I saw, well, my professional, my educational background is in chemistry. I'm a chemist by profession. At the same time, I studied business administration. I was born and raised in Berlin, but went to university in Aachen, right next to the border to Belgium, right? Good technical university, studied these two studies at the same time. And then in 2012, after finishing my bachelor's in chemistry, I went abroad to the US to study economics, economics and a management course at Harvard University. And then I was intoxicated. Before that, I received a scholarship, and I was on the corporate track, just like some of you, maybe, right? And I was in the talent pool of a big chemical company, and they were giving me these breadcrumbs, right, to lure me into the corporate path. And then in the US, I got intoxicated. I returned and I wanted to start a company, right? And that is what I did. There are a few names, right? In the beginning, I needed to earn some money on the side, which is why I worked as a chemist at a tech startup here in Berlin. Interesting project, but not my project, right? So on the side, I worked on my company at different projects, most of them not named there. But the most notable one was Store Anything. Right, and that is what my co-founder and I founded in 2014. So it's been quite a journey, right? And still with a little bit more gray hair in my beard and hair, I'm happy that Sören invited me to give a talk to you today. What does Store Anything do? The idea, the core hypothesis is pretty simple. space is getting scarce in cities, right? Rents are soaring. Try finding a flat in Berlin, right? And right outside of cities, there is abundance of space, right? There is Brandenburg, right? So there is a lack of space and there is abundance of space, and if you bring that together, you're solving a real issue, right? An issue that not only exists for private people, but for businesses just alike. Small businesses, big businesses, poor people, rich people, right? It's a problem everyone is facing. And it's not only a problem in Berlin, it's all over Germany. Not all over Germany, right? It's all over Europe, all over the world, independent of the system. It is not a problem that is intrinsic to democratic systems. You have the same problem in Beijing and Moscow, but also in Sao Paulo, New York, you name it, right? Space is a problem. The rent market is not working anywhere in the world, and we are not able to solve it. But your life changes. Your private life and your business life. And more often than not, that has a physical component. And since the rent market is broken, you cannot adjust your physical environment according to your needs. So it needs buffer space. And that is what we are providing. We take everything from you that you don't need right now, put it somewhere where space is available, and bring it to you exactly when you need it. And that was our core business idea. In order to do that, we developed a software to forecast demand. That was pre-Gorillas, that was pre-Flink, that was even pre-Rewe Lieferservice, and you don't even know that one, right? It was 2014. And it didn't work. The software was great. We cooperated with two research institutes here in Berlin, but the business model wouldn't work. Right, we had Americans, Turkish people, English people, but no Germans as customers. Germans didn't want the service. They didn't know, they didn't want it. So fast forward, we pivoted, right? We pivoted towards what we're doing right now, and we had to take out all the service and all the technology that was not necessary for the product itself, because the problem is evident, right? Space is a problem. Germans just didn't want to pay for it and didn't want to have the service. So what we did was, all right, give the Germans what they want. A lot of space for very little money. And that is what we do, right? As much space as you want for very little money. In order to achieve that, right, we build very inexpensively. We automate our processes. There are no employees on site, and you're not getting in touch with any human person if you don't want to. Of course you can call us, right? Of course you can drop by, but you don't have to. You want space. Right? And who are our customers? Everyone. It's businesses, it's private people. In any given situation, you need space. We might have a solution for you. That is what we do. Right? It's a super interesting market. In the US, it's a massive market, 40 billion euros. Right? That's bigger than the print industry globally. It's massive. Right? In the UK, also a pretty mature market. In Sweden, 1/8 of the population of Germany. It still has the same market volume than the German storage market has, right? But the German storage market is highly underserved because Germans are who Germans are. They are frugal, right? And they don't do what they don't know, right? So we feel like we have solved that issue. We have found the access to the German market, right? And that is what we are doing right now. Pretty simple business model. We rent or buy big industrial areas. We buy shipping containers. We refurbish them, paint them, put electricity inside, and then rent them out. Currently, we have 11 locations up and running in Germany, nationwide, right? 5 of them around Berlin. Several others are more lined up, right? We're expanding. So that is where we stand right now. And now I want to move over to a couple of learnings I brought for you guys. First one is choose the right people you want to found a company with, right? You might spend more time with your co-founders than you spend with your husband or wife, right? So you want to be willing to work with them and spend a lot of time with them, right? My co-founder's name is Anton. Right, we've been friends for a very long time, and he's got a lot of experience in sales, something I was not so much into when we founded the company. And he'd been a very, very good friend, so we've always trusted each other a lot. When the business model changed, though, we felt we have failed. The first company didn't work out with Store Anything, right? And that is also when Anton left the company. And that has taken a dent on our friendship, right? So whoever you found a company with, make sure that you can work with them, right? Make sure it's not just you're nice together, but make sure you can work with them, and be aware that founding a company with a friend might impact your friendship negatively, right? When things go well, things go well. But founding a company is not always smooth sailing. So be aware of that, and in my opinion, don't found a company just by yourself. Someone always has to start, right? Don't get me wrong, right? Get started, right? It's easier to convince somebody to get on board when there is already something, and someone has to start. But don't do it alone, right? It's lonely, right? Yeah, it's a lot of work. Please.
Why? If you are alone, you have more authority over your company.
That's true. That's true. There.
You can be a dictator.
Well, if that is what you're aiming for in life, I agree, right? But you're going to be a lonely dictator. So in all seriousness, the issues you will be facing is that in a situation where you're not exactly sure what to do, it helps to have people at eye level to talk with, right? Who are very deeply involved as well, who you can talk with freely, and who are just as incentivized as you are. And it is very hard to find these type of people in your surrounding if they are not your co-founders. Right? You cannot talk with your employees like that, right? Different incentivization and most likely not the same level of experience, right? So that is why I would recommend founding a company with a co-founder. And the second learning I want to give to you guys is just do it, whatever it is, right? Thomas earlier said, I've been giving lectures at another university in Berlin for a couple of years now. One thing students more often than not tell me why they haven't founded a company is because they don't have the money. Bullshit, right? What do you need the money for? If you have shown evidence that you have a working business model, money will follow, right? Get to the point where you exactly know how to invest the money. You will find it if you have sufficient evidence that it will work, right? Or not the right idea. Come on. Anyone who has problems has ideas. Don't tell me you don't have any problems, right? Or, well, you know, there is so much bureaucracy. That is true, especially in Germany. But it shouldn't stop you from doing stuff, right? Do the bureaucratic stuff later, right? There are tax consultants to pay for to get the tax stuff sorted out for you, right? Just do it. Get started, whatever it is. Because the authorities, I mean, they are slow, right? And either your business model will be working out, then you will have the consultants and you will be able to pay for them, right? Or your company fails, right? And then, I mean, who cares, right? Move on to the next thing. So just do it. Get started, right? And don't think about all the problems you might have at some point, because you might also not have them. But you will surely have 1 or 2 or 3 problems right in front of you. And these are the problems you need to tackle now. And the next problems will be the next ones you're facing directly, right? A couple of examples how we apply that. Just do it, right? I recommend to you, just start with a minimum viable product, right? It's so easy to build an app these days with AI. It's so easy to build a website, right? It takes you a couple of minutes. Just do it, get started, right? Put some Google ads out there, pay some money, €5, and see if there is demand for whatever you're selling. And sell the product before you have it, right? Because that is how you find out if your business model is going to take off or not. We do that as well, right? Not fooling our customers, but checking if new locations might work or not, right? Because we sign a lease with the landlord, right, for a couple of years with a worth a couple of €100,000, a single contract, or even millions, right? And before we do that, we want to know, is it going to pay off? So what we do is we test it, right? We test it by using one marketing channel we use in real life as well for all the locations we actually have. And we see how many people call us. Who wants to have a container there? And you can do the same. Just build a launch page, yeah? Takes you a couple of minutes, right? And see if people actually want to buy whatever you're selling. Click on it, right? And then when they want to sell something, just make a pop-up, right? Register to our email newsletter. You get a discount, unfortunately not available yet. But then you will know that someone wanted to click on that. That is evidence that people are willing to buy something you are selling. Just do it. And the same is true for so many other things that we wanted to do some PR. We didn't have any money. I already told you about another guerrilla marketing idea we've had, right? And that is just a random picture of another bad idea we've had. But we also had some good ideas, right? In the time 2014, there was the Deutsche Bahn, the national railway company, had some issues because the market was liberalized and the buses were introduced. Flixbus, yeah, I guess you know them, right? They were not there before 2014, and that is when they appeared because they were not allowed to be there before in Germany. So Deutsche Bahn had some problems. They still do. And one approach to tackle them for them was, well, we sent managers into startups. And we were like, amazing, we're a startup, send a manager to us. And that is what they did, right? They sent a manager, her name was Katharina. And Katharina worked with us for a week. And after day 2 or 3, we called a local newspaper, Tagesspiegel. It's a big one. We called them and we're like, look, Goliath is learning from David, right? And they were like, oh, that's interesting. We were like, yeah, right? You want to send a journalist and write an article about us? They were like, yeah, sure, let's do it, right? We were super happy. We went to Katharina. Katharina, look, Tagesspiegel is going to come, right? And they're going to write an article about us, right? They're going to interview us. And she was like, what? Guys, I'm working for a corporate. I can't just give an interview in the name of the corporate, right? We were like, oh, fuck. Yeah, right, but what do we do, right? And she was like, all right, let me make a call, right? And they called a lot, right? And at some point, Deutsche Bahn sent a consultant who was supposed to consult Katharina on what to say, right? And everything within just a few hours, right? And that consultant was sent and arrived at our official address, which was my parents' house. So my mom called me and was like, look, there is someone who wants to speak with you. So it didn't work out, but the consultant went to the wrong address, right? We were at another address, right? And Deutsche Bahn still allowed Katharina to give that interview. And we had this whole page article in one of the biggest serious newspapers in Berlin. And after that, PR wasn't a problem, right? Journalists started calling us. Right? Just because we had the one idea. We tried other stuff that didn't work, right? But that one did. And afterwards, PR was not a problem. Also, one thing you should keep in mind, of course, try to reach for the stars when it comes to PR as well, right? Journalists, right? Try calling them. When in summer there is nothing to write about, they're happy to have some inspiration. But also try the small newspapers, the small outlets, right? Niche outlets for the startup world. It's easy to get published in these, and journalists from bigger outlets read them. The big ones read the small ones. So make sure you get some visibility, and at some point PR will work for you. Another learning. Find yourself mentors, right? Early on I said, don't found a company just by yourself, right? Even if you have a co-founder, or if you don't, right? Even more so, if it's just you, if you're a solo entrepreneur. You need a support network. And of course you have friends, right? Of course you have family. But you do need people who are one step ahead. Maybe even 2, right? And I can highly recommend looking for these people. And as always, reach for the stars, but think what you're looking for, right? There might be people in your vicinity, in your circle of friends, who are very good at something, who can help you with that, right? There might be people who inspire you, maybe some big names. Try to get in touch with them, right? Try to meet them. Try to get inspired. What I mean by mentors is not someone you marry, but it is someone you meet over and over again over a certain period of time, who knows you and your business, who you get along with well, and who gets along with you well, who has something to share that is of interest for you, who you can learn from. You meet over a period of time again and again, so that person knows you, can help you, right? But isn't as blind in the business as you are, right? You are fully focused, you're laser-like focused. It's your business, right? You smell it, you eat it, you touch it, right? It's your business, right? You are, at some point, you're somewhat blind. You want to be laser-like focused, right? Because you're creating the reality in your head before it's there. But you need someone from the outside to help you from time to time. And that is what I mean by mentors. Yeah. Do it. Ask for them. Find them. And have them in your circle of friends. Where do you find them? Everywhere. Right? Go to events. Get in touch with people. Contact them on LinkedIn. Try to reach out. Right? And in my opinion, the best way is to meet them in person. Right? I once there was more than 10 years ago, went to a speed dating organized by an incubator program we were in with a company, right? Good thing to meet people, right? Experienced lawyer, build up a company as well. Another mentor of mine, Hendrik Braun, I was looking for mentors, so I started organizing circles like this one, right? Where like-thinking people would come together, right? And my core idea actually was to get in touch with potential mentors, right? So I invited them as speakers, and he then was one of them, and I very much liked him and admired him, Hendrik Braun, and Claude Ritter, another one, right? I would say a big shot who founded, among others, a Delivery Hero and Book a Tiger, and now is GP at one of the coolest venture capital funds in Berlin, right? Met him at an event. By coincidence, we talked a little bit, and a couple of weeks later, we, by coincidence, met again, right? I looked him up. I looked up where he would be speaking, right? And I went to that event, and then I talked with him again and asked him, hey, you want to meet for lunch a few times maybe? And he was like, yeah, why not? We always met at his office, right? There was a restaurant right next to it. He paid, right? Which was nice for me. And I was sitting there and learning, right? Asking him questions. Get in touch with people you admire and learn from them, right? There is so much to learn from other people, also from elderly people, right? Especially when it comes to leadership topics, right? I have this one investor I meet maybe every six months, and he has so much leadership experience, right? It's incredible, right? And at a certain age, my experience, people are willing to share, right? Because they remember who helped them. So don't be afraid that you don't have anything to offer, right? You have to offer authenticity, right? And inspiration yourself. Just get in touch with people and build your support network. That is a good transition to my fourth point. It's only 5, right? Choose your ecosystem, whatever you do, right? Choose the environment you're active in. That applies to your microenvironment. Groups like this one, right? Here you meet like-minded people who inspire you as well and support you on your journey, right? But also on a bigger scale, the country you live in and the city you live in. In Germany, it's much easier to get in touch with the startup scene in Berlin than in, I don't know, a small town, right? If you want to get into banking, maybe go to Zurich or London or Frankfurt. Whatever it is, go into the ecosystem that is prominent for whatever you want to achieve and give life the chance to surprise you positively. Right? I did that as well, but I spare you the details, right? No, maybe one thing. One of the most inspiring times I've had was when I lived in a flat share of founders, right? I had already lived in a flat share with other people, but then I sat down with a friend at some point after a couple of beers. I was like, look, I live in this flat here, but I really don't like the people so much. Why don't you move in and we make a founders flat? And for years we organized founders event in our flat, right? At some point even sponsored, right? It was a group of friendship and support and network, right? Amazing time. I can highly recommend doing similar things if you are in the phase of life, right? And now the last of my learning, and maybe a recommendation for you folks, be brave, right? Whatever it is, there are always obstacles in your way. Don't let them stop you. And if you're thinking anyways, why don't you just think big? That quote, by the way, is by this man. I don't want to leave you with that face, though. I much rather leave you with the face with these two gorgeous gentlemen, right? Young and beautiful. On a last remark to Anton, he's not my co-founder anymore, right? But he still is a good friend because we've always trusted each other and still can. It has changed our friendship, right? It's not the same anymore, but he still is a friend. So guys, I recommend to you, just do it. Choose your co-founders, choose your ecosystem, find mentors to support you, and be brave. Thank you.